I never thought my wealthy sister would see me like this, curled up under a bridge with nowhere to go. When she heard how my children had betrayed me, taken my home, and left me with nothing, she gave me a beachfront condo and $5 million to start fresh. A few days later, my kids came back pretending to care. My sister caught on instantly, and I finally did too. It was pouring rain, the kind that soaks through everything, even your soul. I was 72, standing outside my son Paul's house, my suitcase at my feet, water pooling around it like a moat. He'd just thrown it out the door, his face twisted with disgust, and called me a burden. That word hit harder than the rain. I raised him, kissed his scraped knees, went hungry so he could eat. And now, in his eyes, I was nothing but dead weight. He slammed the door, and that sound, it echoed louder than the storm. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just picked up my soaked suitcase and walked. I ended up under a bridge, not far from the main road. No umbrella, no coat, just a thin sweater and slippers that squished with every step. I sat on that concrete wall, my suitcase under me, listening to tires splash through puddles. My body ached, but my heart, it felt like ash. I wasn't just cold, I was erased. Passers-by didn't even glance my way. To them, I was just another old lady, another homeless shadow in a city full of them. That's what scared me most. Not the cold, not the dark, but the feeling that I wasn't me anymore. You ever feel like the people you poured your life into turned around and spit in your face? That was me, shivering under that bridge, replaying Paul's voice in my head. Burden. I kept thinking about the years I gave him, every sacrifice, every late night, every dream I put on hold. And for what? To be tossed out like trash. I wrapped a damp blanket around me, one I'd stuffed in my suitcase, and tried to stop shaking. Not just from the cold, but from shame, disbelief. How did it come to this? Around 3 a.m. the rain slowed. I was drifting off, exhaustion winning over pain, when I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate. I looked up, and there she was, Vivian, my little sister, standing there like a miracle in a soaked trench coat. Her hair was a mess, her makeup gone, but her eyes? They burned with something fierce. She didn't say a word at first. She just knelt down, brushed the wet hair from my face, and took my hand. That touch, it was the first time in weeks I felt human again. Vivian helped me up, grabbed my suitcase, and led me to her rental car. No questions, no pity, just action. In the car, with the heat blasting, she handed me a thermos of tea, honey and mint, still warm. I took a sip, and for the first time that night, I felt a flicker of safety. We didn't talk until we hit the highway. "You're coming with me," she said, her voice steady. I nodded, not because I had a plan, but because I had nowhere else to go. Vivian's always been fire where I'm water. She fights, I endure. But that night, I started wondering if enduring was enough. We stopped at a motel outside Tallahassee. Vivian handed me a room key and a bag of clean clothes. I took a hot shower, scrubbing off the rain, the dirt, the humiliation. In the mirror, my face blurred in the steam, and I barely recognized myself. But I slept that night, not deeply, but in a bed. The next morning, Vivian said we were heading to Clearwater. I didn't ask why. I just followed. Something inside me was shifting. Not loud, not sudden, but real. You know that moment when you realize you're done swallowing your pain to keep the peace? That was me. If you've ever had someone you love treat you like you're nothing, you get it. You know what it's like to pick yourself up off the ground with nothing but aching joints and stubborn pride. What I did next wasn't pretty, but it was fair. And trust me, it changed everything. The next morning, I woke up to the hum of the motel's air conditioner, the sheets scratchy but clean. My muscles screamed from the night before, but my hands were warm. Vivian was already up, moving like she'd been planning something all night. "We need to get moving," she said, tossing my suitcase in the trunk. 10 minutes down the road, she pulled into a gas station and came back with coffee, a breakfast sandwich, and a folder. She handed me the folder first. Inside was a real estate listing, a condo in Clearwater, 2 bedrooms, ocean view, fully furnished. The price made my stomach twist. I looked at her, and she said, "That place is yours. I bought it this morning." My jaw dropped. She kept her eyes on the road. "I wired the money when muck. It's in your name. No mortgage, no tricks." I turned the page. Photos of a balcony facing the sea, a kitchen with granite counters, a guest room with a writing desk. It looked like a vacation home, not a place for someone like me. Then on the last page, a bank receipt, a deposit into a new savings account. $5 million. I couldn't breathe. "Your savings," Vivian said. "Yours alone. I've had it set aside for years. You didn't know because I didn't tell you." My ears rang. The number stared back at me, too surreal to process. We drove in silence, palm trees and strip malls blurring past. I didn't know if I felt gratitude or shame or both. But when we pulled into the gated complex, a cream-colored building with blue-tiled roofs, something settled in me. Vivian carried my suitcase into the lobby, past a smiling concierge, and up to Unit 3C. The apartment was bright, with soft beige walls and a gray couch. I stepped onto the balcony and heard the ocean, steady, alive. Vivian set my suitcase down. "This is where you live now," she said. "I'm across the hall, so don't get any ideas about disappearing." I wanted to say thank you, but the words felt too small. Instead, I nodded. Vivian's voice turned sharp. "I know what Paul did. You don't have to talk about it, but you will not let them take anything else from you." She'd already contacted Grace, her lawyer friend, to lock everything down, financial shields, legal protections. "You're not a guest here," Vivian said. "You're the owner. Start acting like it." 3 days later, Vivian threw a welcome party in the building's clubhouse. She didn't ask. She just told me to wear blue. The room was warm, with finger foods and ocean views. About a dozen neighbors showed up, retired couples, widows, an older man who reminded me of my late husband, Charles. They didn't pry, and I was grateful. Vivian introduced me as the newest resident, here for a fresh start. No mention of Paul, no mention of the rain-soaked night. I stood by the window, watching the sunset, content to be invisible for a moment. Then Paul and Marissa walked in. My stomach dropped. He wore a pressed shirt. She was in beige and gold, heels clicking like they owned the place. They smiled like nothing had happened. Vivian moved like a panther, blocking their path without raising her voice. I didn't hear what she said, but their faces tightened. A staff member stepped in, and they left, Marissa not even glancing back. The room barely noticed, but I gripped the refreshment table so hard my knuckles whitened. Vivian came back, popped a grape in her mouth, and said, "Told you they'd show up." She'd seen a cryptic post from Marissa's friend online that morning. She was always 3 steps ahead. That night, I sat on my couch, staring at the ocean. They hadn't come to apologize. They came to see what they could still take. I opened up in a notebook Vivian had given me and wrote one sentence. "What they took from me, they will return." Below it, I listed 3 words: house, name, power. The storm was over, but I was just beginning. 2 days later, Vivian showed up with a stack of envelopes and her tablet. "They're going to try again," she said, spreading out papers, letters, emails, screenshots. Paul had contacted a law office about power of attorney and elder care authorizations. Marissa was shopping for a notary on Facebook Marketplace. "They think you're soft," Vivian said. "They think you'll sign something if they cry hard enough." She told me to follow her lead, and I did. That afternoon, we invited neighbors over for coffee, a casual setup with pastries and fruit. Vivian told the concierge to let Paul and Marissa up if they came. She hid a recorder under the end table and sat back like we were waiting for rain. They showed up in under 20 minutes. Paul smiled like we were old friends, Marissa carrying a gift bag with cookies. I said thank you without feeling. After some small talk, Paul slid a document across the table, a family wellness and property agreement. 6 pages, buried with clauses giving him control over my finances and medical decisions. Vivian pulled out a copy of the same document, redlined, and called him out. "This is word for word from the paralegal you hired last week." Paul froze. Marissa went quiet. Vivian turned on the recorder and raised her voice just enough. "This is what family manipulation looks like. Paul stood, stammering about misunderstandings. Vivian didn't blink. The state of Florida will understand. So will the ethics board. I picked up their contract and tore it in half. The room went silent. This is what happens when you mistake quiet for weak, I said. They left. The neighbors excused themselves politely. Vivian handed me a glass of water. They'll try again, she said. I nodded, but this time I was ready. They didn't stop. Paul showed up with takeout, Marissa with groceries, even a framed photo of Paul as a kid, fishing with me. Each visit was a performance. Soft words, fake concern, always circling back to accounts, logistics, helping me. I recorded every word with a device Vivian gave me. Grace flagged Paul trying to redirect my bank mail, even pulling a fire alarm in my building to cause chaos. They were desperate, sloppy. I locked down my accounts, got a cognitive exam to prove I was sharp, and sent Paul the results. No note, just facts. Then came the legal letter, 6 pages claiming I was mentally unfit, my decisions erratic. Me, the woman who ran budgets through recessions, who raised a son alone after Charles died. I laughed, then called Vivian. Grace was already on it, building a case with transcripts, recordings, and witness statements from my old landlord and a nurse who'd seen my bruises. Paul and Marissa were trying to erase me, but I was building a wall, brick by brick, truth by truth. They invited me to dinner, a last-ditch charm offensive. I went, calm, in a navy dress and Charles Gold watch. The table was set perfectly, the kids stiff in their Sunday best. Paul and Marissa talked about jobs, kids, family, then slid into estate talk. I pulled out an envelope, a notarized addendum locking my assets into the Ruth Ellery Foundation for single mothers, elder abuse victims, and community health. Their faces fell. I'm choosing peace, I said, and protection. I left without looking back. They didn't stop. They filed forged documents claiming I'd given them control of the foundation. Sloppy, lazy lies, backdated PDFs, fake meetings, a notary who didn't remember me. Vivian caught it all. She filed for fraud and perjury, and the DA took notice. At the hearing, the judge saw through their contradictions. My cognitive tests, their own filings, undid them. Motion granted. Case referred to the DA. It was over. I didn't gloat. I baked cornbread, walked the beach, planted apple trees. The foundation grew. Workshops, meals, support for women like me. The headlines called me the elderly woman who fought back. But I didn't fight. I refused to vanish. I wrote a letter to myself. I did not break. I will not disappear. If you're watching this feeling dismissed or erased, know this: you're not invisible. You're still here, still writing your story. Plant something new, draw your line, and don't let anyone cross it.